Hello everybody, you have tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover virtually any aspect of making a murderer. I go over the evidence, the documents, the photos. So if you like, stay tuned, and in the future I'll have many more videos besides the one you're about to see. Hello everybody, how you doing? Very, very interesting news today. It came from an article in the Criminal Justice Reform Journal. Extremely interesting because we actually get to see the documents that, number one, prove the Calumet County reopened the investigation to the Halbach case again. We get to see the documents to prove that, basically proves that, and then we get to look at some of what they're investigating and how they're investigating it. And we also get to see what prompted them to investigate it. So it's very interesting. Now, the first thing we're going to see here is basically the document that shows at the very beginning of the new CASO, basically CASO 2 that's been now created for this, and it shows basically the opening page where it says that this investigation has in fact been opened, and we are looking into some of the aspects of what was brought forth in Kathleen Zellner's motion for post-conviction relief last year in 2017 in June, I believe it was, end of June. So it's very interesting stuff. So here we'll see the document number one that shows that without a doubt the investigation has been reopened, and they are kind of checking into things. So let's see that. Along with Avery's post-conviction attorney Kathleen Zellner's ongoing investigation in her attempt to prove Avery was not subjected to a fair trial and continued public interest, the Sheriff's Department in Calumet County, tasked with carrying out the original investigation into Halbach's death, have begun investigating once more. Calumet County Sheriff's Office, follow-up investigation regarding the Halbach homicide. Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Agent Assist and Special Investigator John Dettering. Special Investigator John Dettering of Calumet County Sheriff's Department was assigned to conduct a follow-up investigation regarding several allegations or questions raised in several filings by Stephen Avery's current defense attorney, Kathleen Zellner. What's interesting there, folks, is remember how Judge Suk just casually just tossed that aside, like there was nothing there of relevance or whatever? Clearly, Calumet County didn't think so. Clearly, Calumet County thought there was something there that sparked them to start a new investigation, whether it was because they think maybe now they did maybe make a mistake, or whether they're trying to CMA or CYA or whatever, basically cover themselves. I think the opening of this investigation is very interesting. The follow-up investigation into the murder of Teresa Halbach by Calumet County Sheriff's Department begun in August of 2017, which is last year, like a month or two after she filed her motion for post-conviction relief. Consists of interviews of 18 individuals, both directly and indirectly involved in the original investigation throughout 2005 and 2006. Okay, so as you see, no less than 18 individuals have been questioned who were directly or indirectly part of the investigation back in 2006 and 2007. So there's 18 people that have been talked to. Now, this doesn't tell us all. This is just a few pages from some of the investigation reports. But we're going to show you what a couple people have said here, because we have the investigation reports, as I said, right here to show you. So we're going to move into now where Dettering is asking about, number one, the key that Teresa was using at the time, because it's believed that Teresa was using this valet key that only had Stephen Avery's DNA on it and none of hers. And so they're asking her friends about that, her key, and what key she was using, and also about whether or not she had damage to the front driver's side blinker, as it clearly does when it is found. So we're going to go ahead and show you that right now, and we'll come on back. Within the interviews conducted by Special Investigator John Dettering, particular attention is made of the damage to the front left blinker assembly of Halbach's Toyota RAV4. and the keys she was using to operate the vehicle. No fewer than 8 individuals within the report were asked as to their knowledge of any damage to Halbach's car prior to her disappearance and subsequent death. 7 of the 8, including Halbach's housemate at the time, Scott Blodorn, were unaware of any damage. The 8th person interviewed, Ryan Hillegas, initially gave a statement in 2005 to Special Agent Thomas Fassbender, stating that the damage to Halbach's vehicle had occurred months prior to her disappearance, and that she had duly filed an insurance claim. However, research carried out by Zellner's investigator showed no such claim had been made, and during interviews of Hillegas on August 22nd and October 23rd of last year, he indicated that he could not provide Dettering with any details, and that it was unknown to him who told him about the damage or the claim. Wow, what do you know? Ryan Hillegas can't remember. His memory, he can't quite remember, right? He can't recall. Yeah, right? I mean, that's sorry Dettering, but you're going to get a lot from that from Ryan, because trust me, he was doing that in 2007 at trial. I mean, that was like his only, it was like he was stuck in a feedback loop between that and I'm sorry, I can't recall, or I don't remember, or, variations on the theme there. Anyway, so here are the reports. This one here deals with Scott Blodorn making his statement here on 8/23 of last year in 2017. On Wednesday, 8/23/17 at 925 hours, I, Special Agent Dettering, made phone contact with Scott Blodorn. I questioned Scott specifically regarding whether he had any knowledge of Teresa Halbach losing the ignition key for her RAV4 or any damage caused to the left front area of Teresa's vehicle. Scott could not recall any damage that was done to the left front area of Teresa's vehicle and could not recall Teresa losing the ignition key. Investigation continues. Special Investigator John Dettering. And then we get down here to Ryan Hillegas, where it shows part of the statement he's made here. Information he relayed to Special Agent Tom Fassbender in 2005. This is about Ryan Hillegas. Regarding the damage and the insurance claim, Ryan stated it was unknown to him who told him about the damage or the claim. I then displayed photographs of the damaged area and the damaged directional to him, but the photographs did not jog his memory. What a shock that is. Anyways, so Hillegas' statement back in December of 2005 was given to the same agent, Tom Fassbender, involved in the current Brady claim by Avery's attorneys relating to this undisclosed CD that was seemingly retained in Fassbender's own personal possession rather than being disclosed to Avery's former attorneys, Jerome Booting and Dean Strang, by the District Attorney Kenneth Kratz prior to the trial. Indeed, the CD in question was not disclosed until some 12 years following, on April 17th of this year. Okay, raise your hand if you're shocked that Ryan Hillegas couldn't recall and couldn't remember. Right? Anyways, so that's really interesting there, because he doesn't remember who told him that there was an insurance claim made. I mean, it's just, he doesn't remember. It's just amazing what this guy doesn't remember. I mean, it's like I said in my one video where I said he was dodgy as hell, because he is. Everything he says on the stand, it's just like, oh, I don't recall. I don't know. Until it gets specific, something that, that he needs to say so that Stephen looks guilty, essentially. Then all of a sudden he has a clear memory. He remembers, every little detail. Yeah. So, and then here we are, 12, 13 years later. I mean, good luck, Dettering. Something tells me that Ryan Hillegas' memory isn't going to have gotten better in the last 13 or so years. So, good luck with that. That's all I got to say. So, now we're going to move into the next bit. Here we go. So they seem to still be interested in Ryan, or at least somewhat worried or something. But here we go. So this is an interview with Tom Pierce, Teresa's boss / business partner at the time of her death. He was, Tom Pierce and her were fairly close. He knew that there was somebody bothering her at the time. And this is what happened in the interview between John Dittering and him. So on Thursday night, 7/17 at 10:35 hours, Special Agent Investigator John Dittering, made phone contact with Tom E. Pierce, date of birth 10/05/48, regarding this matter. And I specifically asked Pierce about the damage to the left front area of Teresa Halbach's RAV4 and whether he could recall Teresa having a key that would remotely unlock the doors to the RAV4. Thomas indicated he does not believe he and Teresa ever discussed the broken or missing directional. Thomas indicated he did not recall anything about the key fob other than it was on a long cord. Thomas thought that the key was on a long cord for as long as Teresa owned the vehicle. I asked Thomas who he was referring to in his affidavit when he mentioned the fact that Teresa had been in some abusive relationship in college. Thomas indicated that he was not sure, but thought perhaps Ryan Hillegas was the individual mentioned in the affidavit. Thomas stated Teresa had once made reference to the fact that Ryan had been abusive, but he could not tell whether Teresa had made reference to the fact that Ryan had been physically abusive. Thomas went on to indicate that one of Teresa's girlfriends had gotten married and the girlfriend wanted Teresa to do the photography for her wedding. Thomas stated Teresa advised him that she did not want to go to do the photography for the wedding because of the fact that Ryan Hillegas was standing up in the wedding. Thomas stated that he subsequently did the photo shoot for the wedding instead of Teresa. So there we have Teresa very specifically avoiding Ryan Hillegas. So, yeah, I mean, it just always gets fishier and fishier with Ryan. You know what's going on with this guy. I've had a guilter in my ear telling me that the DOJ has it all worked out exactly where Ryan was, and he couldn't have possibly been anywhere in the area at the time, and blah 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 blah. I just haven't seen the paperwork. Well, I don't believe that now. Because if the DOJ possessed such paperwork, they wouldn't have been going around and asking these questions in their new investigation. So I now think that's a load of hooey. I thought it was a load of hooey before, but now I feel fairly, very, closer to 100% on the fact that that probably doesn't exist. Otherwise, this investigation and these questions wouldn't have been being asked to Thomas Pierce. So that's it. Very interesting. So once again, Ryan is right back front and center again. And I don't see him offering any kind of explanations. In fact, you'll see what he offers here in a minute. Just more of what he's always offered. I don't know. I can't recall. Don't ask me. I don't know nothing, basically. Okay, so those are the words of Teresa's boss, basically, or kind of business partner, but anyway, at the time, anyway. So that's Tom Pierce. He was, kind of a mentor of Teresa's, and they were, fairly close. And those are his words there. He's saying that, she mentioned that he was abusive to her back in college or high school, whatever it was. And then to kind of further put the icing on that, she clearly avoided doing the photography for a friend's wedding because she didn't want to have to deal with him as one of the men, he's one of the people standing in the wedding. So to avoid dealing with him, she asked Tom if he would go do it. That's pretty interesting. That's a pretty, focused attempt to avoid Ryan. So, anyways, now we're gonna move in to the next bit. We're gonna see here where the article would criticize Dittering for the questions that he's not asking. So, for instance, with Ryan here, they give him his phone records from between October 31st and November 5th of 2005. So, he was able to review all those and look at things and numbers and see, kind of get an idea. He was not able. He basically comes in and says he's not able to remember anything, can't account at all for any of his time during that period. Remember what I was saying a minute ago about that the DOJ cannot possibly. I mean, if the DOJ had proof of where Ryan was, and that he couldn't possibly have been there, then why are these questions getting asked of Ryan now? I don't know. Just curious, I guess. But I would lead me to believe that they don't know where Ryan was, just as we've all suspected all along. They have no idea. And they never asked. Because, as we all know, Ryan admitted that he never felt like he was interrogated. You know? They kind of talked to him and Scott together at one point in the room, but they were never separated and individually questioned or anything like that. We hear that in MAM. So we know. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one, pans out too, because when Tom Pierce says he believes that Ryan Hillegas was the abusive ex-boyfriend and that Teresa actively, tried to avoid Ryan by asking Tom to photograph a wedding for her, those show a clear intent in Teresa's mind, in my mind. And if Ryan felt that Teresa was continuing to pull away and he was not in a good place with that, I don't know. I mean, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just pointing out that when you got people talking about, when you got people saying this kind of thing where Tom Pierce is just being frank and honest about what he believes just because of the what he observed and what he witnessed, particularly with that wedding. There's something there. There's substance. So, okay. So, we're going to go ahead and move into that now. Perhaps of as much importance as the questions that have been asked since CCSD's follow-up investigation began are the questions that appear to not have been asked. Although Detering presented Hillegas with phone records from October 31st through November 5th, to which Hillegas indicated too much time had passed for him to review the telephone records and recall with any certainty his whereabouts, he made no mention of the 22 no-caller ID calls received by Hillegas in the space of 4 hours on November 4th. While it was understandable that Hillegas' recollection of specific phone calls might be hard to remember, it seems far less likely that he wouldn't remember 22 related phone calls over such a short time period. More importantly, however, is why the specific question was not asked. So this is the report where they ask Ryan about it, and John Detering and interviewed with Ryan Hillegas in Mud Creek Cafe. Ryan indicated that he had reviewed the cellular records that had been provided to him. Ryan indicated that this did not help him at all with regards to establishing a timeline for his whereabouts during the week of 10/31/05 through 11/05/05. Ryan indicated too much time had passed for him to review the telephone records and recall with any certainty his whereabouts. Yeah, he can't recall. Detering, don't get discouraged, man. This guy couldn't remember anything back in 2007, so I didn't really expect his memory to get better, quite honestly. So, all right, so that's very interesting that Ryan cannot account for anything. And what this article goes in to criticize there is that Detering didn't push further, when Ryan said he looked at the calls and he looked at the whole records and couldn't remember anything. So this article, making very apt, observation, notices that Detering did not bother to ask him about the 24 calls with no caller ID that he received within a very, very small window of time on November 4th, Friday, November 4th. See, what this article goes to say is that, yes, we could understand if he didn't have, specific recollection of, specific calls. But when you get, 24 calls with no caller ID in a very few hours, I mean, it's going to stand out in your memory no matter what. And the fact that Ryan would seek to deny it, how did Luke Berg put it? Oh, yes, he said, it strains credulity. Yes, yeah, that's the perfect phrase for this. Perfect. So, the last bit of the article, which I will obviously be posting below, by the Criminal Justice Reform Journal, Okay, and so what this article is criticizing is they're saying if Scott and Barb knew, but that's not really the way I remember it. I remember Barb saying that Bobby now says she left. That's what I remember. I don't remember her saying that her and Scott directly saw her leave. I don't remember that, so wasn't quite understanding. But that is a question that Dettering should have posed. Is okay? Why has Bobby, or what has caused Bobby Dassey to now change his position? And he now says he now says that she left, and so that question doesn't get asked. So that's one thing that this article is pointing out, that this investigation that's been opened is certainly going around and asking questions because it's concerned about what was in the post-conviction motion, but it's certainly stopping short of going that extra, couple inches, that extra foot or whatever, to get at the heart of it. It's just stopping just short of opening the can of worms. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that, and as more of these pages of this investigation come out, I think we're going to see a lot of that, where the investigator just comes up short, decides not to ask the burning question that all of us would be thinking if we were in his shoes. I think we're going to probably, see quite a bit of that. If I'm right, we're going to probably see a lot of that. Maybe not. Maybe they're going to start realizing here that it's just too much of a mess and they need to get proactive about correcting it or whatever, finally developing the right attitude. Who knows? I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in that. I'm not saying that that's a high probability that they'll do that. Just kind of acknowledging the possibility, however remote it is. But anyway. So these are some interesting things about this new investigation that's been opened. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, I find it highly interesting that the thing got opened at all, because Judge Suk deemed that there was nothing there at all to worry about. Nothing. Nope. Dismissed. No problem. Almost whimsically, like just, I wonder if she really understood a lot of it, or if she had the time to really read it and understand it. But then again, she may have just been looking at some really strict points of law, and that was it. Boom, kick it, punt it out. But it seems like what that stuff that was in there, and the things that Zellner was putting in there to back it up, must have ruffled a few feathers and got some people worried, because a new investigation was at least an investigation was reopened into this, which is highly fascinating. Can't wait to see the further developments from this. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.